What would you say if I told you that the way in which one of the biggest and most successful companies in the world runs its complex operations is the best way for you to prepare for your interviews? Would your mind be blown? Buckle up. For those of you who don't know, I spent most of my career in the technology industry. I have been a senior executive at Amazon, Oracle, a handful of startups, and of course, Amazon. In my role at Amazon, I ran the Kindle product management team. I was the director of Kindle product management. Now, I learned an amazing amount from my time at Amazon. But one of the things I learned was about this very, very peculiar process for how they run their business. I will admit, I was extremely skeptical of this business process coming from Microsoft, where the entire company is basically run on PowerPoint. The Amazon document culture is pretty well known in tech circles, but I continue to be surprised by how many people really don't understand it until they've lived it. I definitely see this firsthand with customers I've interviewed at who continue to struggle with the writing exercises as they're going through their loops for Amazon jobs. I have a great video that I'll link to at the end of this video that walks you through how I, as a former senior executive at Amazon, would go about tackling that writing exercise if I were to interview with Amazon again. It's really important to understand why the document culture exists. First and foremost, the information density in a Word document far exceeds anything that you can jam inside of a PowerPoint file. Second, and this is also important, there is a core question that any meeting is trying to solve. And if you don't understand that question, why are we having the meeting? They can be very, very expensive in terms of the amount of time and seniority of people in the room that it kind of doesn't make sense. We've all been in these meetings. We're sitting around going, why are we here? How much time are we wasting? What is it? What are we actually accomplishing? Is this just a report out? Couldn't this be an email? Yeah, these exist. For companies where you do have decks that are driving meetings, we've all been there. Someone who's going to attend asks you to give them the deck ahead of time so they can read it ahead of time, which of course they don't. So you stress out getting it to them ahead of the meeting because they've demanded it ahead of the meeting, but they don't read it. Or you as the person running the meeting have pre-shopped all of the conclusions that you're getting at, and you've kind of gotten agreement from the people in the room. So then why are we having the meeting, right? If I'm going to come in and I'm going to think that I'm participating, but the decision's already been made, why are we here? At Amazon, the existence of the digital artifact, the document that drives the meeting, is to ensure that anybody, whether they were in the meeting or not, understands the discussion that was had in the room, because everybody comes into the meeting at the same basic level of knowledge, right? The document should stand on its own, and it should answer every critical question that is required to make the decision that that meeting is about. Question number one, why are we meeting today? What decision needs to be made? That is usually the first question in this FAQ document. And for those of you who are just a little bit confused, yeah, it is literally an FAQ document. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And every piece of information that exists in that document, every question is in support of the root question, which is, what decision are we trying to make today? What product are we trying to build? What customer problem did we see in the wild and what happened, right? There's a root question. Every question that follows and all the information that follows in the answers must be in support of that question. And all documents in Amazon, they're either 2 pages or 6 pages. That's a hard limit. It's not like there's some 3-page documents and 4 pages. No, it's either 2 pages and exactly 2 pages or a little bit less, or it's 6 pages. And that's it. There's no real in between, right? Your document should be as long as it needs to be and not 1 word longer. But you didn't come here to find out about the Amazon document culture. What does this have to do with your interview preparation? Well, it's interesting. The core question that any job interview is trying to solve is, can this candidate do this job at this company and likely exceed expectations? But what the interviewer is really asking is, how do you work? As a candidate, how do you work? When that switch finally connected in my brain and I understood that there was a core question of every interview and I could drive my answers the way I would an FAQ document, I came to the conclusion that writing long, rambling essay-type answers that I was hoping I would write enough of and answer questions I might get asked and sound real smart on paper would lead to a rambling, ad-libbed answer when asked whatever question in an interview. Yeah, that was out. What was in was carefully crafting my story around the FAQ of the core questions that matter for walking through the story that I want to tell. Just about anybody who's interviewing in tech jobs understands the STAR format: situation, task, action, result. I have lots of videos about this. STAR format, hey, it's great. I don't need to belabor the point. The FAQ overlay, this is my addition to STAR format and how you can prepare better for your interviews. The FAQ overlay is forcing you, the interviewer, to prepare your stories in such manner that you are only providing the information that is of the utmost importance to landing the point of the question. The question is not, tell me about a time you were able to look around a corner and deliver some feature or product or service that some customer didn't even know they needed or wanted. while that is the interview question, the question of the interview is, how do you work? How do you perform your work? And can you do that here in this job, in this role, at this company, and likely exceed expectations? Let me give you a little thought exercise, right? If you've gotten to my content, you're probably pretty deep in your interview prep, and you probably have one of these documents where you've written out a long speech to an imagined question that you might get in the interview. Would that support your promotion? Would that support your pay raise? If you were to hand that word for word, verbatim, assume you're going to memorize it and deliver it, which of course you won't, but let's say you were, hand that verbatim to your skip level to support a promo or a pay increase. Would it work? Would it work? Of course it would. Why wouldn't it? Well, first of all, we've all been here, right? Your boss goes, yeah, just tell me the important stuff, right? Because they have time constraints that you don't have. When you're in an interview, people do the same thing. They just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. It's not important stuff. It's a rambling mess. Too much background material, too much stuff that you think is important, which isn't. If you are going to try and support a pay raise, a promotion, role, scope, responsibility increase, you need to present the case, which is, here's what the situation was. Here's what I and the team did about it. Here's the great outcome that resulted as a result of my leadership. Here's the situation, task, the action, the result. Asking for a pay raise, promotion, scope increase in your current company is literally the same thing as going to an interview at another company. Literally the same thing. So why would you prepare any differently? Why would you think about it any differently? You shouldn't and you wouldn't. So this is where the FAQ overlay on the STAR format becomes so critical to your success in preparing for your future interviews. The FAQ overlay is a repeatable framework for your preparation that ensures that it forces upon you word economy, right? You're going to shorten your answers to the essence of what's important to land the answer to the question, how do you work? Can you exceed expectations here? Can you do this role and exceed expectations? The most important question is, how do you work? And by extension, can you meet expectations here? You need to answer that, and you do that with providing only the most important information. Don't overload me as the interviewer with extraneous information. Don't make me think too much. I want to come out of the room imagining you already working here. Help me get there as the interviewer. Utilizing this FAQ overlay, the STAR FAQ format, it is a great way. It is a forcing function to demonstrate how you work. Not just what you did, but why and how. Because these are the critical elements that then govern whether or not I, as someone who does not know you, we've spent maybe an hour together, maybe I've looked at your resume, maybe I've looked at your LinkedIn, but at best, we've spent an hour together. So the only thing I have to go on with you as a candidate to evaluate and then advocate for you is what you give me. And if you spend our time together with a bunch of extraneous information, giving me background on this person did this and this person did that and this was broken, but if none of that really truly matters to the question at hand, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're creating a situation where I come into the room, I want to hire you. I'm tired of doing interviews. I'm positively predisposed, I want to hire you. But if you don't make it easy for me to advocate for you, wow, that's going to be a problem. If you steal this one technique that I borrowed from Amazon and have held on to and applied it to future job searches after I left, and I'm now sharing it with you, thinking through your story preparation, not as simply writing out a lot of words, but an FAQ to boil down the essence of what you did, what the situation was, what you did, and what the result was. You're overlaying the FAQ document on top of the STAR format in your preparation so that your content is better, your stories are better, and this is important, by not rambling, it's now a conversation. I care the most about how you work and whether or not I can imagine working with you. I can't do that if you're just talking at me for 10 minutes in your answer. But if you are presenting the information in bite-sized enough chunks, and even if your breaks points are the end of situation, task, action, and result, right? It is now creating an opportunity for me to latch on and ask good questions. If you constrain it to only the questions that matter, what was the customer problem you were trying to solve? Why was this important? Why did your team have to take it on at this time? What were the resources you had available to you? Situation, task stuff. If you focus on that and not, well, when I came to the company, there's this guy, Bob, he used to work there and he'd been working on things, but none of that matters. But I, as the interviewer, I don't know what matters, and you're making my job harder because I have to now parse through your trash to figure out what's important to then decide, can you work here? If you're making it hard for me in this room when we're doing an interview, gosh, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when we work together full time. So that's the trade, right? Please steal this, utilize it for your interview prep. StarFac, it's the way to go.